Welcome back to the channel. Well, it's always a tough decision on what to do with these cars. And when I say that, I mean there's so many parts available, and my focus is trying to get a modification done and only doing it once. I know that's an incredibly difficult task, and as many of you've seen, I've had many failures. I don't know, such as the G, where I did the humming kit and then wanted to change to the carbon fiber nose. That of course creates a whole lot of work and expense. It's always internal conflict. But one thing I can tell you is that when I bought the Murci, I did really like the LP640 nose. And then I saw the SV and had to have it. So I did the nose and I was actually quite happy. But then I saw the SV hatch with the roof piece and thought to myself, boy, that would be a really nice piece to complement what I have. Unfortunately, those parts are just so expensive, and it kind of just fell to the wayside along with all my other projects. But many commented on the channel and said that I should do the SV rear bumper on this car. You know, I gave it a lot of thought. I actually like both. I mean, I really like the LP640, so I don't know if there's any real need to change it, but I like the active arrow, but I do like the hatch. Well, I don't know if any of you saw, but I changed the hood on my Aventador SV to a Euroteck carbon fiber model, which came out really nice, and I was really happy with the work. One of the biggest problems with all these parts are they're really expensive, and who to trust? I mean, I don't know. I've had my fair share of bad parts, including name brand stuff that should be good, that just wasn't that great. Whether it weigh a ton, is super heavy, wavy, you name it. I've seen a lot in my short lifespan. So what I would say is, for that, when you find somebody that you can trust, it's well worth investigating what they can do. Just so happens I talked to Neil about this car because I asked him I wanted to do the SV hatch and the roof panel, and he mentioned that he could do it for me. And of course, I wanted to do it in pre-preg. When I talked to Neil, he actually advised that maybe to save some money, I should try and do a wet lay or a combination of fiberglass and carbon. The problem for me with that is that I will inevitably regret that decision, and then every time I look at the piece, I would think to myself, I should have spent the money to do the pre-preg, so I just coughed it up. How long Neil will make these parts? I don't know. You know how these companies are. A lot of times, if there's not a lot of demand, they just kind of move on. So I figured when I was doing it, I better get the whole rear end as well. The rear bumper, the rear deck lid, wing. This way later, if I decide to do the modification, I've got the parts all in pre-preg. Because with my luck, no one would make it, or I'd find some manufacturer from the middle of nowhere that I couldn't trust to do the parts, probably charge me a ton of money, and I'd get low quality parts. So let's take a look now. It's fast forward. Since I ordered all this with Neil, it's been some time, but obviously these parts take a long time to build. But let's take a look and see how it went. Now, for those of you that have seen the kits out there, pre-preg is uncommon, and we're talking about a kit that costs as much as a Honda, so I wouldn't just do it on a whim. So what do I have behind me? Well, it would appear that I decided to order all the parts. So what I want to do is open it up and see what I've got. Hopefully everything looks good, but I'm very confident that Neil did a great job, just like he's done on everything else he's built for me. Over the time that I've been doing all this, I have ordered a lot of parts. And all I'll say about this is that I've never seen my parts show up where someone crates them. That's how much they care about these parts. I'm sorry, I'm still just in shock. But the other problem is, like I said,
Oh, okay. All right.
So far so good. That took a very long time to unwrap that engine hatch, but man, it sure is nice. I'm glad I went with that part, and now we'll have to see if the bumper, wing, and deck lid look just as good. Well, there you have it. Neil came through as usual. The parts look amazing, and they're all very light because they're pre-preg. The only thing I'll say is that I seem to have lost a good portion of my day unwrapping those parts. But there is a plus side to all this, and that is that I've realized that I can start a new business. I no longer have to do everything that I do here. I could just simply sell packing material. As I look across all these parts that I had made, I believe I'll stay with plan A, and that is change the roof piece to carbon and the rear hatch. I have the other parts, so I can do it whenever, but I'll take it from there and see how it looks. For those of you that follow me, you know that I'm a bit obsessed with weight, so I have to check. Take a look there. I have put the roof panel on the scale. Let's see what type of weight we have. Now, looking at the computer there, the roof panel weighs in at 2 pounds. Is there going to be much weight savings there? Probably not. Even though it's pre-preg, mass is mass, right? But we can compare that to the factory piece and see how it does. The engine hatch is a pretty large piece, and I'm hopeful that I'm going to save weight, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's very minimal. Let me show you why. First of all, the Lambo rear hatch is already carbon. Now, I don't know if it's pre-preg because it's so hard to tell, but it probably isn't. But even with that, the resin savings won't be substantial. My only hope is the glass. Now, if you look at the glass is very heavy. I really like the glass windows above the engines. I remember the first time I saw it on the Ferraris, and I like all my cars to have it. But I did forego it on the SV because of the weight. Glass is heavy. As all of you know, most of the high-performance models or exclusive models have thin glass to keep the weight down. And that is my only hope to possibly save weight between this hatch and the SV hatch. You can see we have the new SV hatch on the scales right there. Let's go and take a look and see how it does. Well, there you have it. It's coming in at 24 pounds. 24 pounds is pretty good, but we'll have to just see what the actual difference is and then go from there. Okay, well, the moment of truth, we are ready to go ahead and remove the factory hatch. I have my lovely assistant Drew to give me a hand because obviously I can't handle this. In fact, I'll probably struggle getting it off because I can't get my shoulder underneath it like a hood, but we'll see how it goes. The first thing you want to do is take off the gas cylinders.
Oh. I almost need to put on the tripod.
You got it okay? Alright. To take out the third brake light, all you have to do is pull this boot back, and there's a clip on this side. I'm just going to use a pick and slowly work it up. And there you go. This obviously is a roof panel that we're going to replace with my new fancy pre-preg unit. I have the third brake light out. Now on the SV, they move it to the trunk lid. We will do the same. So with this, there's a small hole underneath the roof panel. It's not big enough to take this boot or even the plug. So you gotta make a choice. My choice is I'm gonna cut it. I'm gonna split the difference right here. That way I can use the harness back there to have the same plug for the brake light. It's difficult to see what's going on underneath the panel. It's actually really quite simple. They're just tabs that are there that Lambo puts on, and there are 4 bolts. You just use a 10mm socket and you pull them off, and hopefully that piece will come out. I don't know, of course, for sure, because I haven't done it. Just love the look of carbon. All these years, it's still just as good, like the first time. Well, you know, kind of like the first time. You know, you can see my grubby fingerprints all over this, and I'm sure Drew is really unhappy as she laughs behind the camera. Let's take a quick look and see if it fits. Oh man, that looks amazing. Well, at least for now, it doesn't need any work around the edges, it would appear, which is always a good sign, as all of you know. Next thing is, of course, we'll have to put the hardware in and see what happens. As all of you know, pretty much the norm is you hope like hell that everything fits, and oftentimes it's a complete letdown. So the roof panel doesn't line up with the tabs. The mounting tabs are steel, and of course I asked Neil before he sent it would everything line up. I won't hold him against it because those of you that have done carbon work know the distortion, movement, but it would have been really nice not to have to grind. So if you got to do it, what I recommend is plastic drop cloths. You can get them at the hardware store, they're cheap. I really don't like metal fragments all over the place because, as you know, with a little bit of moisture, the next thing you know, you've got these rust spots all over the place, or in the engine compartment where you can't get to it, and it's really quite annoying and really hard to clean up. So for the few moments it takes to do that, I think it's well worth it. Everything went fairly smooth. You just saw that I had to clearance a hole, but you can see the roof panels in. It is still really grimy. So I'm sure that that is really bugging Drew right now. But I will say one thing, when you're gonna put this on, watch for the clearance between the car actually here. That side was fine. I did have to clearance this side, and it was buckling pretty good, so just in case, that way you don't crack any paint. But now it is time to move to the hatch. I'll just go over this real quick. Obviously there is the old engine hatch and the new SV hatch. All I did was transfer the brackets for the gas cylinders and the latch piece. I actually had to put a rubber bumper under each side of these brackets because it was eating into the carbon, which I know none of you want to do. So right under this corner right there, I just put like a furniture bumper on there, and that pretty much took care of the problem. Everything's straightforward. I'm sure all of you know how to do that. The most difficult part is the fitment. So the only real way to do it to protect everything is to tape everything, and I just don't have the time. I'm tired, it's been a long day, so I'm gonna cheat. I just barely tightened these down and snugged them so I can still move them. Same way as a hood, it's the only way to really get a good fit, and typically you always have to do some finessing. I highly recommend an assistant. I'm looking at Drew, but someone needs to watch the gaps. You gotta watch the gaps, especially if you're not gonna tape the whole car up. So right now we're gonna slowly go down and we'll both watch and see what happens. I think that might be all we can get, so let's just go slow.
I think mine was
Good. All the gaps are good, and whenever possible, when the manufacturer makes a part undersized, I'm a lot happier. Now granted, the gap here is a little bit more, but the problem is when things are tight, then you guys start cutting into things, which just really sucks. So other than that, we have clearance everywhere. I think things were stuck out enough. We'll open it up one more time to check clearance, tighten everything down, and then the minor adjustments, like right now the bumpers are up, and then the latch. But other than that, everything looks pretty good. So we'll go. Now that everything's off, I can take a reading on what the weight is of the roof panel. Now, remember, I wasn't expecting to save too much, but let's take a look here. Now if we walk over to the scales, we'll see what we have. As you can see right there, the factory roof panel comes in at 3 pounds. I have the factory engine hatch on the scales, and of course, like we talked about, it is carbon, but it does have a lot of glass. It does feel heavier. Let's see what the scales say. And there you have it, coming in at 34 pounds. If my memory serves me correctly, the pre-press carbon fiber one was 24 to 34. A 10-pound savings with the new one. That is a whole lot of money to spend for 10 pounds, but what we're really after is the look, and I really didn't think there'd be that much of a weight savings there. So I'll take the 10 pounds and call it good. There you have it. I am happy that that job is finished. It wasn't bad at all, and it had the normal setbacks that any of these type of jobs have, but I am sure pleased with the results. I mean, the look is definitely what I was looking for, and mission accomplished. Now, the weight savings, just another added bonus. I'm sure that some of you will comment that, Adam, you've got to do the rear. It just doesn't look right. That may be the case to you, but to me, actually, I do think it looks really good. And in fact, I don't know, sometimes I even think that I would like to have my bud JC design me a new wing in carbon so I can keep the active arrow. I don't know, you just never know. That way you can come to your own conclusion if the upgrade is right for you. Other than that, have a great weekend.